This is We the People, and we want to welcome you now to a new segment on our broadcast. It's called The God Squad. We have gathered members of different faiths to our set today to discuss the importance of understanding within our communities. Joining me right now, the Reverend Tom McMillan, Rabbi Noah Benjamin Bicker, and Dr. Zeki SariToprak. Welcome to the broadcast. That was reading left to right, by the way.
Thank you.
Good to have you. Good to have the God Squad with me today. Let's all talk about a little something that I think is important. Recently, you were all together for the annual Abrahamic Traditions Dinner. How does this event reflect the shared values of Islam, Christianity, and Judaism? You want to start? You're closest to me.
Happy to do so. I mean, first of all, it's about food. I think this is something that all of our traditions share in a central way. One, that food is an ability to bring people and different kinds of people together. Food also enables us to give thanks and be aware that if it were only up to us in the world, we likely wouldn't have enough to eat. And I think it also helps our three traditions share a concern for those who have less.
Yeah.
And so the fact that it was at a dinner, I think, was crucial to the event.
I should tell our audience Rabbi Bicker is with the Jack Joseph and Morton Mandel Chair of Jewish Studies at John Carroll University. And Dr. Zeki SariToprak is director of the Bediüzzaman Said Nursi Chair in Islamic Studies at John Carroll University as well. You tell me, give me your thoughts about this Abrahamic dinner.
Yes, that is very important. And Abraham is considered one of the 5 elite prophets in Islam. And the ancestor of the prophet of Islam also, the grandfather of the prophet of Islam, and the ancestor of Judaic tradition and Christian tradition. So Abraham is a common ground for Muslims, Christians, and Jews, I think. One of the aspects of Abraham is that he is known as the friend of God. And one aspect that's very well known in the Muslim tradition, he is generous and he gives food. They say there would be any night that Abraham wouldn't have guests.
So it was good that the three of you were together, as were your followers, your congregations. Dr. Tom McMillan is here. He's senior pastor of the John Knox Presbyterian Church of North Olmsted. You were there as well. This was a good event, I would imagine.
Yeah, this is our 4th time having it. We started in 2018 after Hurricane Harvey devastated Houston. We got our faith communities together for this Abrahamic dinner to talk about how do we respond to natural disasters within our faith communities. The next time, I think we talked about how do we respond to hate and violence. And then this last time was how do we respond to conflict? What are ways that we create paths of peace within our communities, within our families, and also between religions.
You speak about conflict. We're dealing with one right now over in the Middle East, the Israel-Hamas war. What are your thoughts on that? How can local faith-based community help bring peace to that part of the world? What do you think?
I think part of it begins with what you're talking about. When we are around tables, you suddenly begin to interact. I don't know if I would have met Noah and Dr. Zeki if we hadn't been around tables or been invited to speak, but there's so much in their background that I don't know about.
Yeah.
And I think although they are so close, Gaza and Israel, do they actually know each other? Have they actually had opportunities?
Your thoughts?
I have a lot of thoughts about this. I actually think one of the greatest tragedies of the current conflict and what's been going on in Israel and Palestine over the last decades has really been the ways in which Jewish Israelis and Palestinians no longer know each other. And I actually think that in the diaspora, and especially in America, where these two communities, and even here in Cleveland, where we have a very strong Palestinian-American community and a very strong Jewish community, these communities might actually begin to know each other and understand each other's stories. And it's possible that those diaspora communities might be the first steps towards importing that kind of connection back home.
Can we find peace? I mean, in the Arab world, there's the word for peace, salam. In Israel, it is shalom. Sounds very similar to me. Can we find peace?
I think we can find peace. It is very important to refer to a Quranic verse, for me, it says, peace is better in all circumstances, in the family disputes, in the social disputes, in the international disputes, peace is better. And that's why I say when there is war in a place, we need to focus on peace immediately. Whatever venues are possible to focus on peace and bring peace to that community, because you don't know, the conflict may lead to a greater conflict, They say the weapons of mass destruction today we have in the world can destroy our planet 10 times.
Yeah.
So we pray for peace. Can you find agreement with what these two gentlemen are saying?
Yeah, I think we need to first sometimes challenge the suspicion that people live with and what oftentimes we are told about the other. Instead of being hospitable, we become hostile. Instead of being curious, we get judgmental. And we think that's the end of the story until we actually sit down and I listen to your history, not from how I interpret it, but I actually hear you and listen to it. And then you hear my history. And all of a sudden, it's not as clear sometimes how we got here, but we begin to create something different for where we're going.
We can find that we're in all of this together. If I can take you back, maybe before some of you were, but some decades ago, back in the 1970s, during the Egyptian-Israeli war, Anwar Sadat of Egypt and Menachem Begin of Israel found peace. And one of the things we realized was their countries were in the same time zone, and there was maybe only 1 or 2 degrees difference in the temperature. They are that close together. We can find peace in the Middle East.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important to note that from the time of the end of the 73 war until the peace treaty was only 6 years. And so as bad as things are now, and don't get me wrong, things are really bad now, I think to give up hope would be foolish. Because who knows what can happen. But in order to move forward, there has to be a sort of basic recognition of common humanity, and that is not always present everywhere, and that's a real problem.
Dr. Zeki, SariToprak, let me ask you this. Statistics show that we have gone down in congregation-affiliated people in this country. No matter the religion, fewer people are going to church, fewer people are going to temple, fewer people are going to the mosque. How do we turn this around, or what's this say about where we are right now with large numbers of people not affiliated with any religion?
Yeah, I think that's why many people call themselves, I am a spiritual and not a religious.
Right.
I think the main reason for this is the quest for freedom. People like to be free from all boundaries, from all rituals. Now, I was listening to a documentary by Michael Wolff. He says the reason he converted to Islam. He said the reason I converted, it became attractive for me that it didn't have hierarchy. Islam didn't have hierarchical position.
Right.
So people don't like to be commanded by a priest.
The institution?
The institutional dimension of the religious affiliations is probably bothering people. Therefore, they prefer to be free and individual.
Yeah. Reverend Tom McMillan, are you finding that to be the case at the John Knox Presbyterian Church of North Olmsted?
Yeah, there's less loyalty to a denomination, but I think still a hunger for communities of meaning and purpose. I hope it gets beyond pickleball, and I hope people can find, okay, that gets me to a certain place, but I need to go deeper. And I need to have relationships. I need to make commitment for my own growth, for my own connection with the community, and then also our own link with a neighborhood that needs our participation. So I think there's a real draw for people to find a community to break through some of the loneliness and the isolation. I think people are they're still spiritual, they're still seeking meaning, but you're right. They're looking for places that don't have the encumbrance of an institution, maybe.
Yeah. How is it in the Jewish community, Rabbi?
Well, I mean, I think it's complicated. First of all, I think in some ways the picture is that in the middle, things are really falling out. At the most sort of intense right-wing part of the Jewish community, their numbers are growing very much. Very liberal Jews, in some ways, are experiencing a kind of renaissance. And it's much in the middle, in the classical, conservative, and reform congregations, which are really losing steam. Judaism also is a little bit different from these other two religions, in that Judaism isn't only a religion, it's also kind of an ethno-nationalist identity. Right. And so there are a lot of ways that people can be Jewish but not religious in ways that doesn't quite fit. It's hard to say, well, I'm a Christian, but I'm not religious, or I'm a Muslim, but I'm not religious. But you can be Jewish and not religious. Yeah. And so that just makes it a little bit different.
But we're all looking for the same thing. Aren't we all looking for peace and harmony in our lives? I got about 30 seconds remaining. Take 10 seconds of that.
I think the answer is yes and no. We are, in many ways, we are looking for the same things. The way we go about looking for those things can be very, very different. And I think we have to celebrate difference as much as we celebrate commonality.
Yeah. I'm going to take some more time on this. I forgot to ask you this. You got two prominent Reformed Jewish congregations in Northeast Ohio. Yeah. Histories dating all the way back to the mid-1800s. Temple Tifereth Israel and Anshe Chesed.
Well said. Fairmount Temple, exactly right.
They're coming. They're merging. A first-of-a-kind merger. Do you see more mergers of religious organizations?
Maybe. One of the things that's really interesting about Fairmount Temple is sometimes I go to a Jewish prayer service in that synagogue, which is a sort of very left-wing Orthodox prayer service, which has been meeting in an unused space of a sort of shrinking Reform synagogue, which is now merging with another one. So I think there are all kinds of recombinations in ways in which the community is changing, and simplistic ways of thinking of growth or loss don't quite capture the vibrancy of what's going on.
Yeah. Reverend Tom, take a piece of that. How is it in your area of Christianity, your Presbyterian? Are we seeing mergers?
We can see some churches coming together, and that's hard. It's work, because you have turf, and then you're sharing tradition and creating a new path forward. So it's challenging, but it does happen. I'm probably seeing more frequently creating mergers with partnerships in a community. So our church is partnering with an elementary school for mentors to be with kids for 1 hour a week. And it's creating this path where an adult is just with a child, and a school that needs more adult connection with these kids. Yeah. So those kind of partnerships, I'm finding more opportunity.
Dr. Zeki, is there talk of mergers among the Muslim community? Yeah. Mergers of mosques?
Yes, to my knowledge, no. Mosques, actually, there was like a mosque in our area, splitted from the other mosque. They said, oh, maybe this mosque will not find any congregation. And it turned out that now it is not enough for the new congregation. So the old mosque also is not enough for their congregation. So it seems like it's growing. It is not actually merging.
Yeah. I understand.
The way that I see in the Muslim community.
Well, I'll tell you, our audience, we've been chatting with the new group that we call the God Squad. They've been around for a while. Religiously speaking, their religions have been here forever. but we are new with the God Squad, as we call them. We want to thank Dr. Tom McMillan, Senior Pastor of John Knox Presbyterian Church in North Homestead, Rabbi Noah Benjamin Bicker, who is a Jack Joseph and Morton Mandel Chair of Jewish Studies at John Carroll University, and Dr. Zeki SariToprak, Director of the Bediüzzaman Said Nursi Chair in Islamic Studies, also at John Carroll University. Thank you so much. I feel better. I feel we have talked to God.
Thank you very much.
With the God Squad. Thank you for being on the broadcast.
Thank you.